Good afternoon and welcome to our CEP Live on Facebook, Wealth Policy, Civic Engagement, and You. For those of you just turning in, this is a weekly series of Facebook Live events that we hope will better connect you to the activities here at the Kansas Legislature. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m. or Wednesday, if there's an ice storm, CEP will host live interviews with organizations whose mission includes one of the wealth topic areas: water, energy, air, land, transportation, and health. So encourage you, if you're watching live, like us on Facebook at CEP Heartland, and on Twitter at CEP Heartland. We are at 999 likes today.
Good.
So if you're watching now, like us so that we can
share,
get
help
to
us
1,000.
get to 1,000 for sure.
Definitely. You can find our website, www.climateandenergy.org. So today, we're live at the State House with Jessica Lucas, who represents CEP's own Clean Energy Business Council, and we're really excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's a timely interview.
It is. So each week, leading advocacy organizations will provide a policy update on a current wealth topic. Remember, that's water, energy, air, land, transportation, and health. Tips for civic engagement, how you can be involved, ways to engage your legislators and what questions you might ask them on specific topics, and to answer all of your pressing questions that you may have. So if you are tuning in live, go ahead and ask questions in our chat box. Our wonderful Susie Fagan will let us know when questions come in. And if you're watching later, not during our live session, do go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, because we do follow up on those and answer those for you. So just a couple of reminders for you. March 15th is our Wealth Day, our day of advocacy and education. You can RSVP online at bit.ly/2018 Wealth Day. It's a great opportunity to come together with other advocates across the state who care about similar issues and really have a deeper understanding of what's happening across all of the wealth priorities. So, again, Jessica, excited to have you today. We get to spend a lot of time together, but I'm excited that other people will get to know a little bit about the work that you're doing. So if you would tell us a bit about yourself and about the work that you're doing, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and hello to all of you watching. I am Jessica Lucas, and I represent the Clean Energy Business Council here at the Capitol. I also have other clients that I represent in my role as a public relations professional and contract lobbyist, I think is the appropriate term for the work that I do. So I have had the privilege of representing the Clean Energy Business Council since nearly its inception. The organization is a little over a year old and was advocating for Clean Energy Business Council issues last year in the legislature, and we have continued to do that this year. Last year, we really started just with introducing who the council was, and as all of you know, what's so great about the Clean Energy Business Council is our emphasis on these businesses and the role that they're having in our communities to bring jobs through alternative energy forms. And it's been great to talk to legislators about that work and to see their excitement and encouragement of alternative energy. It is not something that is a dirty topic here. People are excited about it. They're hearing also, I get stopped by legislators all the time saying, hey, my constituent contacted me and they're interested in putting solar panels on their roof, or, various different questions. So all of you out there are talking to your legislators, and continue to do that, because it does translate and filter in here, and they do look to myself and others to help them find solutions. So I think the work of the Clean Energy Business Council is fantastic, and I'm thrilled to be involved.
Well, and we're certainly excited to have Jessica on board advocating on behalf of the Clean Energy Business Council. As Jessica said, we started last year. We have 25 member organizations now, and it's really a wide variety. Companies who are focused on energy efficiency and ways to get more energy efficient products into communities and homes. It's your solar company that's down the street from you who are looking to advance solar power, to large industrial wind companies, companies who want to provide green products. It's just a really great cross-section.
And technology is driving that innovation. So while that's our makeup today, we expect an even broader representation of folks over the next 5 years as technology continues to change and more people are coming into this sector and helping solve problems for us. And that's what solar panels do. That's what energy efficiency does. It takes what's happening in our day-to-day world and how can we do that better? How can we save people money? How can we provide additional opportunities? And we're really fortunate to get to help channel all of that innovation at the policy level and connect legislators to it. So hopefully it makes it more affordable and more accessible for all of the folks at home in their homes and as well their businesses.
Definitely. So we started last year just really talking about the Business Council and helping the legislators understand what this group was, what they were doing, what their priorities were. We did that with a lot of meetings with legislators. We had a policy summit. We helped co-sponsor last year's Kansas Energy Conference. But this year we have some specific policy objectives that we've been working on.
Yeah, so this year we got to put some skin in the game. And I will say for anyone watching, when it comes to legislative issues, you are always educating. You never get to stop. And really you shouldn't, because the minute that you're not talking about your issue, someone else is coming in and talking about theirs. So if I can make a plug for the importance of advocacy at the Capitol, I believe in that more than anything. So if it matters to you, you've got to be using your voice here in the Capitol. And I commend Dorothy and the Clean Energy Business Council for investing in that because it is important. So what we're doing this year, we actually had bill hearings the week of February 6th, I believe. The days kind of start to run together at this point in the session. But we have two main focuses this year. One was Senate Bill 347, which is a bill that would enable you to take advantage of energy efficiency programs. The other bill is Senate Bill 322, which is really a correction, if you will, of former net metering legislation that, while appropriate at the time, all things considered, it was time to reevaluate that. It is time to reevaluate it. And the piece that concerns us most is the fact that if you have a solar system on your home, you're now potentially subject, the law allows, for there to be a demand charge on your bill. So we recognize that in order to grow that industry, and it is ripe for growth, arbitrary charges that aren't really based on data that shows that those charges really do reflect the actual cost are a huge concern of ours, and that's why we introduced Senate Bill 322 to go back to the original net metering language of 2009. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds, although with all of you watching it's probably safe to do, but I think what is important to understand is the legislation that we're looking at is to help you save money on your bills. And we've seen electricity rates hike every year for several years. So not only are there great advantages for what it does for our business climate and economic growth and vitality, but for your wallet and your bottom line. And at this point, we're not going to be able to continue to recruit and retain businesses to Kansas as long as our electricity rates remain the level that they're at. We're the highest among all of the states surrounding us. And so if right off the bat it costs more for you just to turn the lights on, you're looking at other states as a place to do business. And so that's of paramount importance to us and what we believe is part of our role here at the legislature, and we need to see policies adopted that will help us get a better control over the costs that we pay. And with renewable energy, you have more control.
You do. And that's I think the biggest issue, as Jessica said. You know, we've seen consistent rate increases. There are other groups who are concerned about the rates. It's not just folks with the Clean Energy Business Council. It's not just people who care about the environment. You know, all of us, as Jessica said, electricity rates are really hitting us in the pocketbooks. And so we were looking at a new website that we were turned on to today.
Yeah. So a great thing if you're going to try and do things in the Capitol is knowing there's other partners doing it as well. So there is another group that they've got a website, Kansas Energy Problem, and they, on their postcard that they handed out to me today, shows, and this is just astonishing, since 2007, so a little over a decade, if you're a KCP&L customer, your electric bill has increased 70%. And if you're a Westar customer, it's increased 67%. And you cannot blame that on inflation entirely. Inflation only accounts for 18%, according to their numbers, of that rate increase. So it's a real problem, and that's part of what we're here to try and address and make sure that we're adopting policies that will take a fair look at our electricity rates and how we can reduce them.
One of the things that I'd like to do just a little bit is dive a little bit into our KIA legislation. And so in 2014, our organization worked with utilities and others to pass legislation, the Kansas Energy Efficiency Investment Act. And that legislation really pointed the KCC in a direction and a path on energy efficiency. It was the legislature's intent with that legislation to have more energy efficiency programs available to consumers from their utilities. And in the last 4 years, we have had some utilities bring some cases forward, but unfortunately they've been denied. And so we really feel like it's time to take another look at the way the Commission is valuing energy efficiency. So we need to go through a process that involves all stakeholders, organizations, businesses, the utilities, the Commission, the consumer advocate, and really look and see if we're meeting the policy objectives of the legislation. We would say we're not, and that's why it's important to be able to take another look at that legislation and see ways that we can set a path forward that will actually provide energy efficiency programs for consumers. We were looking recently at the KCC's charter, and one of the things that I was really interested to see was that they are charged with providing information and resources for progressive energy policy. I wonder what would be considered progressive energy policy. My thought would be energy efficiency should be right in there with progressive energy policy, and probably distributed generation, some solar, and then someday talking about batteries. So if your charter is to move those things along, we think the legislation that we're putting forward, really has the potential for that.
Absolutely, it matches with the KCC's own stated objectives. And the nice thing is sometimes when you are working on legislation, you are in the dark and you're giving it your best shot and hoping that the policy objectives you've laid out are the right thing. We have the great benefit on the KIA legislation of knowing that our neighbor, Missouri, has already adopted energy efficiency legislation and is seeing great results from it, and customers have been able to take advantage of that for several years now. So we're not asking for anything new, but simply taking best practices that have been supported by KCP&L on the Missouri side and bringing them into adoption on the Kansas side.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. So we're hoping we can continue to make progress on the energy efficiency legislation. When it comes to the net metering legislation, that's really an entirely different situation. In 2014, there was an attempt to get rid of net metering altogether. For those of you that don't know, net metering really is the way that a person with solar can get some credit on their bill for any excess generation, any net generation that they create. There's been a lot of cases at the Commission in the last several years talking about this issue of distributed generation. And one of the things that I think is really important to think about is, a decade ago, we had a choice to make in Kansas and at the legislature. Were we going to take our, top 2 wind resource and turn it into economic benefit for our state, for our farmers and ranchers, for communities, for creating jobs? That wasn't a super popular idea 10 years ago, But the legislature and the commission and the utilities took a leap, and they moved forward with that. And we've seen, $10 billion in economic growth and development in Kansas. Solar is the next wind power. And it doesn't have to be utility scale solar. It really is an opportunity for Kansans to capitalize on our top 5 solar resource, to be able to let people invest their own money in solar, and to value fairly their investment. I've worked with these solar companies on the Clean Energy Business Council for a number of years, and every one of them says, we just want to do our business. We just want to have a fair shake. And so how do we ensure that they're getting a fair shake? We think you do that with a study to figure out what are the costs, what are the benefits, and then let's figure out how to move Kansas forward in this industry the way we did with wind.
Well, I'm glad you brought up wind, because that's so true. We didn't blink 10 years ago on wind. We said yes, and we've really benefited from those investments. Today, less than 1% of our generation on the grid is from solar, but we're a top 5 producer, so there's a lot of room for potential there.
Way less than 1%, like 1/10 of 1%. The current legislation only allows for 1% of net metered generation. So there's a long way to go before we even reach that cap that we have.
Yeah. So there's so much potential there, and we do have these Kansas-based companies that, again, innovative men and women, some of whom started their businesses in their garage and today have 20 employees. And the concern for us, and the reason we're working so hard to find a solution to prevent arbitrary charges that aren't based on anything but
the utilities
models, is that we want these men and women to have the opportunity to continue to prosper in their businesses by providing consumers with the technology that they desire. There's no tax cuts involved in this. This is purely private, personal dollars going to a private business. The only barrier to that potentially would be these charges. And so we have to really get a better idea around what is the right model. The Westar rate case has valued what they believe, which we believe is significantly too high. By their own account, it raises those solar users' bill by 50%. We can't grow Kansas businesses with charges that increase your bill 50% and think that that's going to drive business growth and put these new technologies in the marketplace on more homes.
So we're going to switch gears just a little bit,
Sure.
Get off of our soapbox just a little. You'll be hearing more about these issues as we move forward, and talk a little bit about civic engagement and how important, you started off with how important advocacy is at the Capitol. So could you give us your top tip or tips for civic engagement or effective advocacy strategies for individuals? We know what businesses can do, but what could individuals do?
First and foremost, show up, pay attention, follow on Twitter through the hashtag KSLedge. Hashtag, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Follow that. Read your local newspapers. Subscribe to legislator newsletters. Now, I am so excited. You can actually listen live to committee hearings, and you can do that after hours. So, I've got with me the House calendar and the Senate calendar, and these are online, and you can see what bills are we talking about in committee. So it's a big place. I've been doing this professionally for 6 years. I know it can be daunting, but even just starting at reading your local newspaper, knowing who your legislator and your representative and senator are, going to their events when they have them, communicating with them. I mean, you've got to do it. If we really want to move the needle on things that are important to us, we have to show up, because it's not going to happen in the quiet. If you're not here, you don't get hurt.
So on the topics that we talked about, energy efficiency, net metering, what question would you ask a legislator or encourage others to ask a legislator about one of those? Think about a question you might suggest.
I would ask them what value they place on consumer choice and the bills that you're paying, and are they willing to support legislation that gives you greater options and freedom and control over your electricity bill? Because while you can't choose if you're a Westar customer or not, you can, through this legislation, have some other options in the marketplace to help reduce your bill.
Great. Do we have any questions, Susie, while we're going? Great. Remember, if you're watching this after hours, go on ahead and post a question and we'll get back with you. The things that I would really like to encourage people is Wealth Day on March 15th. Great opportunity to be a sponsor if you want to talk about any of these issues. Great opportunity for advocates to come and share your voice, meet with your legislators. We're going to have a delicious local foods lunch with lots of sponsors about that. So be sure to sign up at bit.ly/2018 Wealth Day. Follow us on Facebook. Next week for our Civic Engagement Live, we're actually going to do a Capitol tour, and we're going to show you all of the cool things there are about the legislature, where to park, what it's like coming in through security, and then all of the cool things you can see around there. Where to find your calendar if you come. And so look for that next Tuesday at 2. Any final thoughts or questions before we sign off?
No, I'm just excited that there are folks engaged and involved, and Wealth Day is a wonderful day to come to the Capitol. You should make sure you visit at least once during session. If you can make it work in your schedule, come and see where your policymakers are making decisions that impact you and your family. It never ever gets old coming here. I'm here every day during legislative session, and not once do I walk in the Capitol and not think, wow, and what a great opportunity to be here. And for the day that you come or the interaction you have with your legislators, you're having an impact on policymakers' decision, and your input helps their output. And so the more you're engaged, the more participation and education that they have, and I think it creates the best kind of policy making. So I'm just glad, and if you're here, let me know and say hello, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, just thanks again for tuning in. We're really excited about the direction that these Civic Engagement Lives have taken. Look forward to seeing you next week.